Karen's voice screeched like a crow caught in a fence, demanding my daughter be hauled off in cuffs for trespassing on her own family's land. By the time her tirade hit its peak, half the county could have heard her do bad. She didn't know I was the sheriff she'd just called to enforce her tantrum. It was a blistering summer afternoon on our ranch, the kind where the air shimmered and the horses snorted restlessly. My daughter, Ellie, 16 and stubborn as a mule, had been tending to our newest colt, a skittish thing we'd named Juniper. Ellie had a gift with animals, a quiet patience I'd always envied. She'd been out in the south pasture, brushing Juniper, when Karen waddled onto our property like she owned every acre in Montana. Karen, our new neighbor, had bought the adjacent plot last month. The garish woman with a penchant for loud jewelry and louder complaints. She'd already called animal control twice, claiming our horses were disturbing her peace. Now, she'd set her sights on Ellie. From my porch, I watched it unfold through binoculars, my gut twisting. Karen, all 300 pounds of her, stood in a bedazzled tracksuit, jabbing a manicured finger at Ellie. "This is private property," she bellowed, though she was the one trespassing. Ellie, bless her, didn't back down. She planted her boots in the dirt and snapped back. "This is our ranch. You're on our land." Karen's face turned the color of a ripe tomato, and she whipped out her phone, dialing 911 with the gusto of a reality TV star. "I want this delinquent arrested," she screamed into the receiver. "She's stealing my view and harassing me." I set the binoculars down, my jaw tight. Karen didn't know I was Sheriff Tom Hargrove, elected 3 terms running, or that the delinquent was my flesh and blood. I'd seen her type before, entitled, loud, and itching to ruin someone's day. But this was personal. By the time I reached the pasture, 2 of my deputies, Mike and Clara, had arrived, their cruiser kicking up dust. They looked uneasy, caught between Karen's hysterics and Ellie's quiet fury. Karen was in full performance mode, clutching her chest like she'd been mortally wounded. "Officers, this girl's been terrorizing me. She's got no right to be here." Ellie's eyes flashed, but she held her tongue, gripping Juniper's reins like a lifeline. Mike, a good man but new to the job, glanced at me as I approached, his face a mix of relief and confusion. "Sheriff," he said, tipping his hat. Karen spun around, her double chin quivering. "Finally, someone with authority. Sheriff, arrest this brat for trespassing and assault." Assault? I almost laughed. Ellie hadn't laid a finger on her. I crossed my arms, letting the badge on my chest catch the sunlight. "Ma'am," I said, slow and deliberate, "you're standing on my ranch. That's my daughter you're accusing. Care to explain why you're calling my own deputies to my property?" The color drained from Karen's face, but only for a second. She doubled down, puffing herself up like a blowfish. "Your daughter? Well, she's been nothing but trouble. Her horse kicked dirt on my new fence, and I won't stand for it. I pay taxes, Sheriff, and I demand respect." Her voice cracked on respect, and I could see Mike stifling a grin. Clara, ever professional, stepped forward. "Ma'am, we've got a survey map at the station. This land's been Hargrove property for 3 generations. You're the one out of bounds." Karen's eyes narrowed, and she launched into a tirade about her rights and how she'd sue the whole county. I let her rant, watching the storm clouds gather overhead. Ellie, meanwhile, whispered to Juniper, keeping the cult calm despite the chaos. That's when Karen made her fatal mistake. If you won't arrest her, I'll call the state police. She spat, waving her phone. I've got connections. Sheriff, you'll regret crossing me. I raised an eyebrow. Connections? Huh. Tell me, Karen, you ever heard of criminal trespass? Or filing a false police report? Her mouth opened, then snapped shut. I stepped closer, my voice low. You're on my land, harassing my kid, and wasting my department's time. That's 3 strikes. Want to keep swinging? The air went still, save for the distant rumble of thunder. Karen's bravado crumbled, her hands trembling as she clutched her phone. This is outrageous, she stammered. But the fight was leaking out of her. Mike chimed in, his tone polite but firm. Ma'am, you can leave now, or we can escort you off. Your choice. Clara's hand rested on her handcuffs. A subtle hint. Karen's eyes darted between us, calculating. She'd come here expecting to bully a teenager and walk away victorious. Instead, she'd stumbled into a fight she couldn't win. With a huff, she turned and stormed off, muttering about lawyers and small-town corruption. As her SUV peeled out, kicking gravel, Ellie finally spoke. Dad, she's been sneaking onto our land for weeks, taking pictures. I think she's trying to claim the creek. The creek. Our property line ran along Willow Creek, a pristine stretch of water Karen had been eyeing since she moved in. I'd heard rumors she wanted to dam it for her dream estate, but this was the first I'd heard of her snooping. You sure? I asked. Ellie nodded, pulling out her phone to show me blurry photos of Karen waddling near the creek, a surveyor's tape in hand. My blood ran hot. This wasn't just a tantrum, it was a scheme. That night, I dug into Karen's history. A quick call to the county clerk confirmed she'd filed a petition to redraw our property line, claiming the creek was hers. She'd even forged a deed, a sloppy job that wouldn't hold up in court. But the audacity, that burned. I spent the next day gathering evidence, Ellie's photos, neighbor testimonies, and satellite images showing Karen's trespassing. By dawn, I had a warrant for her arrest. The next morning, I drove to Karen's McMansion. A gaudy eyesore plopped on her 10 acres. She answered the door in a leopard print robe, her face caked with makeup. Sheriff, she said, feigning surprise. To what do I owe the pleasure? I held up the warrant. Karen, you're under arrest for criminal trespass, forgery, and filing a false police report. Turn around. Her jaw dropped, and for once, she was speechless. As Clara cuffed her, Karen sputtered. This is a mistake. I'm a law-abiding citizen. Tell it to the judge, I said, leading her to the cruiser. The neighbors peeked from their windows, and I didn't miss the smirks. Karen's reign of terror, her complaints, her threats, her endless demands had made her no friends. As we drove to the station, she whined about her reputation and how she'd have my badge. I let her talk, knowing the evidence was ironclad. At the station, Karen's lawyer, a slick city type, tried to spin it. My client was confused about the property line, he said, but the judge wasn't buying it. The forged deed was damning, and Ellie's photos sealed the deal. Karen was fined heavily, ordered to pay our legal fees, and slapped with a restraining order. The creek stayed ours, and her dream estate became a pipe dream. Back at the ranch, Ellie and I sat on the porch, watching the sunset. You okay? Kid? I asked. She nodded, a small smile breaking through. She thought she could push us around. Dad. Guess she learned. I chuckled, proud of her grit. Karen's downfall wasn't just a win for Use It was a lesson for anyone who thought they could bully their way through life. The ranch was quiet again, the horses grazing under a clear sky. Justice, it seemed, had a way of galloping in when you least expected it. The end.